All right, quorum is met.
All right, then I will call this May 31st, 2023 meeting of the DAC to order. Welcome, everyone. And I don't see on my main screen, but is board member Patrica. Yes, there she is. Board member Patrica, I think we're going to start with comments from you.
Thank you, Chair Hertz. I appreciate it. And my comments tonight have an awful lot to do with you, Chair Hertz, as we both are rolling off of DAC probably at the same time. This is my third year as the board liaison. I am going to try to get another board member to take it over, not because I don't like it, but because it's important for me to have exposure to other committees as well. But I have to tell you about Chair Hertz. I met Chair Hertz, how many years ago was it now? 9, 10 years ago? 11 years ago. I met him 11 years ago when I was the SAC representative for Pinewoods Elementary School. And something about his presence drew me to him, and we quickly started to talk to each other and discuss the district as parents who were SAC members. Fast forward 11 years, and I'm a school board member, and he's the chair of DAC. And I just think he's done a phenomenal job keeping this group together, running meetings incredibly well, never with an iron fist, but always with a high degree of professionalism and expertise and order. There's always been order to these meetings. And that's not easy to do in a group this size, nor is it easy to do via Zoom. So, Mr. Hertz, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your service to this school district and your role as a DAC member, and in recent years as the chair of DAC. Your influence on this committee has been a game changer for the district. I'm looking at some of the faces of staff and they're shaking their heads yes. Why? Because DAC now participates in actual changes that are made at the district level. The feedback provided, thanks to your leadership, Chair Hertz, the feedback that this group provides is immediately actionable by staff. And I know that my experience as a parent in the district has gotten better as a result of the feedback that's come in from this group and been implemented by staff. And Chair Hertz, I'm really, really grateful to you. And I just want to say thank you. Those are my comments for this evening.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Since it was previewed there, what's happening for me is I've been doing this since my son was in first grade. He just graduated dual enrollment from Florida Southwestern University, as well as their collegiate high school. I'm currently the DAC representative for North Fort Myers High School. My daughter has chosen to transfer over and go full-time dual enrollment at FSW as well. So I won't have a child in the district to be at a school and be a SAC representative, or be on a SAC to be the DAC representative from the SAC. So I've kind of told everybody, I think this is my last year. I won't have a school to represent in the future, and it's been my pleasure to do this. And I hope DAC continues on with speaking truth to power in a constructive way to move all this forward. We're all here because we have a stake in the education and future of our children, which I certainly think is enormously important for what we do, both as parents, as teachers, and as citizens. I think children truly are the future, and what we all do here is really important. So I hope it continues on, that people are willing to speak up and question what they're told, and give their feedback and comments, and tell people what's good and tell people what's bad, and both are important, and do it in a constructive way. So I hope that continues on, and I hope the group continues with that type of synergistic feedback between staff and the District Advisory Council. I certainly hope to see that continue, as I intend to live here and continue, and our children will still be our future, whether I have kids in a district school or not. I think it's really important. That takes us to approval of the minutes. I apologize to everyone. I guess the last meeting I neglected to do the minutes previous. We didn't have quorum one meeting, so we kind of missed that. So we have two sets of minutes to approve. that have been sent to everyone. First, we have the March 29th, 2023 minutes to be approved. Open to a motion to either approve, or if anyone has any corrections or changes.
Motion to approve.
So glad that you're all here.
I second the motion, Mr. Tyler.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tyler, for the second. I missed who the motion was made by. I don't know if
I'm sorry, it's Gabe Denny.
Okay, thank you very much. With that said, we've got a motion and a second. Is anyone opposed to the approval of the minutes? Seeing none, the March 29th, 2023 minutes are unanimously approved. That takes us to the minutes for our April 26, 2023 meeting. And same thing, I'd welcome a motion either to approve or to modify the minutes as presented.
Make a motion to accept the minutes, Mr. Tyler.
Second,
And
I'll
our,
second Carrie Rathbun, James Stevens.
thank you very much. With that said, any discussion or comments? Seeing none, is anyone opposed to an approval of the April 26, 2023 minutes? Seeing none, the April 26, 2023 minutes are unanimously approved. And that takes us to the next item on our agenda, which would be public comment on our agenda items, the early literacy and portrait of a graduate presentation from any non-DAC members at this time. Do we have any members of the public who would wish to address DAC? Seeing no members of the public stepping forward to make comments, that will take us to our presentation. I see that we have a number of presenters, Dr. Johnson, Ms. Oliveto, and Dr. Quisenberry. And I see Dr. Spiro hiding in the corner there, so I don't know if he was intending to participate or if he's just here for the breakout groups. So whichever one of you is taking the lead, feel free to step forward.
Okay, so I'm going to step in here, Chair Hertz, thank you. And the first half of the presentation is just a very brief overview of thinking around early literacy, and that will be presented by Dr. Quisenberry. That will be followed by a presentation on the portrait of a graduate, and those presenters are Dr. Johnson, Candace Oliveto, and Matt Miller. Once we move into our breakout rooms, there'll be some additional information to be shared and discussed by the respective groups. So Dr. Quisenberry.
Thank you. Yes, let me share my screen. And when Dr. Cuban-McCoy says brief, this will be brief because I could spend all night talking about early literacy. It's one of my passions. I'm the director for elementary curriculum and instruction, but in all previous aspects of my life was a kindergarten teacher. And so if I didn't make it brief, I would keep you talking forever. So I'm just going to go over some of our amazing initiatives that we have in early literacy for our district. And my computer is running slow. I apologize. I clicked too many times. So first, just a few of the initiatives that we have had the last year or two, and then moving into next year especially. So we've continued to build on our pre-K expansion as a district. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Young Five program, that this is our second year that we have had that program, our primary literacy coaches that we have in all of our elementary schools, and a partnership that we are implementing with the University of Florida Lassinger Center for the Science of Reading, which is professional development. So we all know that learning starts at birth. And the more that the students have exposure to print and literacy moving into kindergarten to ensure that they're kindergarten ready, that the more successful that they will be. And so it's really important as a district that we continue to provide supports and opportunities for our youngest students. And that's where our pre-K expansion comes into play. And so for pre-K in our district, and I'm only talking about public pre-K locations for in our public school district. We have, for the FY24, we will have 50 classrooms at 15 different sites. And this is an increase of 8 classrooms from the previous school year. I know that that doesn't sound like a lot, but we continue to increase those capacities and find funding for those pieces, because this is not a highly state-funded project. So we get very creative in the way that we can fund these opportunities for our students in the different locations. And then it's also important that we provide these opportunities across our district for all of our different zones. So you can see on the screen, the zones, these are the new proximity zones that those pre-K locations are in. We currently have 920 students. We are at capacity. And so we believe that once the summer begins, we will have a wait list again, which hasn't happened since pre-COVID for our pre-K classrooms. Our Young Five program is something that we just implemented this past school year. And so per state statute, students are required to turn 5 before September 1st in order to enter kindergarten. As you know, our school year begins, I believe, next year, August 10th. So we have quite a number of our students that enter kindergarten very young. They enter when they're only 4 years old. And we see a discrepancy between our students whose birthdays are earlier in the year versus our students who have birthdays that are over the summer or even in August. And so we worked with kindergarten teachers and elementary principals to come up with some solutions for how to ensure that we are supporting these young students. And that's how the Young Five program came in. So the enrollment requirements are that the student's birthday must be between May 1st and September 1st. They enroll through the student enrollment process, just like all of the other kindergarten students. There is, and I'm going to go over where our programs are located, but there is a Young Five program in all of the new proximity zones. And the difference in the program components is for Young Five versus kindergarten, because it's one of the kindergarten classrooms in these schools, but what happens inside of the classroom is very different. There's a focus on foundational standards. There's a focus on developmental. They have a lot more of the social emotional pieces in their curriculum. They move at a much slower pace. So they're still covering those kindergarten standards, but they're doing it in a way that they're able to master them by the end of the school year and master the foundational kindergarten standards by the end of the school year. So students complete the Young Five program and then they move into a regular kindergarten classroom the following year. And the students that are in the Young Five program, they receive a progress monitoring report through a gold assessment that is measuring those foundational standards rather than the regular kindergarten report card. These are the schools that will have a program in FY24. If there is a star next to the school, it is a new program. And so those schools that do not have a star, they had a Young Five program last school year, and then they've also had a Young Five program this school year. So this is the first year that we have had students who completed the program that have now also completed kindergarten. So we've really started to pull a lot of that data to be able to see the program success. So the first thing that we have done is we have monthly planning meetings with those Young 5 teachers and completed some survey data, which has been very successful, showing that the Young 5 teachers really believe that it is beneficial for these students, that they're seeing strong developmental success as well as academic performance, where these students are now ready to enter a kindergarten classroom and begin that rigor. At the end of so a couple weeks ago, when our kindergarten students completed the ELA and the Math Fast assessment data, all of the students who participated in Young 5 last school year, at the end of this school year, performed on grade level, which is amazing, amazing data. And then for some future data, we're going to survey the kindergarten teachers that are at those schools to see if they can give us a little feedback on the success of those students in their classrooms. We're going to survey the parents of past and present Young 5 students, and then continue to track the progress monitoring data for the students as they move through the grade levels. Because what we would like to see, of course, is that these students are on grade level when they enter 3rd grade and then graduate on time. Another initiative that we began 2 years ago, but again, with COVID, we weren't really able to implement to the full capacity that we wanted to, and we were able to do that this school year and then moving into next school year. So all of our elementary schools have a primary literacy coach. What that means is that they have a literacy coach that is solely for kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade students and teachers. Typically, those supports go into the tested grade levels. In elementary, tested grade levels are 3rd, 4th, and 5th, because that's where we take our state testing. But we all know that if we don't provide those supports in the primary grade levels, then students will not be on grade level when they enter the intermediate grade levels, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So it was really important for us to implement these coaches to be able to support those teachers and those students. All of the literacy coaches in the primary roles are reading endorsed, and they are also experienced classroom primary teachers. They only support, as I said, kindergarten and 2nd grade. Part of their duties is they design lessons. They co-teach with the K-2 teachers. They model lessons. They provide professional development. They're part of their PLCs, which is their teams whenever they're planning different things. They also participate in data dialogues with the teachers and with the students. And then moving into next school year, all of the primary literacy coaches will undergo the Florida DOE now has a literacy coach endorsement course. So they're required to have their literacy coach endorsement. And so they will participate in those courses moving into next school year. Some of the pieces that I just wanted to review for our instructional support. So as I said, K1 and 2 are not typically tested subject areas. That begins in 3rd, 4th, and 5th, although we do now have FAST, which is STAR in our K1 and 2, which is part of our state testing, but it does not count towards the accountability system for school grades. And so we wanted to ensure that we were still providing those same instructional supports for our primary grade levels. So they still have a scope and sequence, which is the order of standards. It gives teachers a roadmap to be able to follow for their structure of instruction for ELA, math, science, and writing. We also provide instructional guides, which are lesson plans for our teachers for the primary grade levels for ELA, math, science, and writing. We provide common assessments, which in kindergarten are foundational, and then moving into 1st and 2nd grade, begin to pull in more of the benchmark aligns to the rigor. And then we also provide intervention programs in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. I call them intervention programs, but they're also enrichment programs, because what all of those programs do in each of those grade levels is the students take a kind of an assessment in the beginning, and it pushes them into what level. So if you are a very high academic performing student, then you're going to go into the high level in that program, versus if you need additional intervention or additional academic support, you would go into that level that helps to support you. One of the things that I'm going to talk about in just a moment that's extremely important, that is something that it has been unique to our district for a few years now, is that we have a district-wide phonics program. And so all of our schools have the same phonics program that we utilize in K1 and 2. It's called Really Great Reading. When I start talking in just a second about the science of reading, it is extremely important that we have a detailed phonics time in our K1 and 2 classrooms. For professional development, we also provide leading and learning. Those are those teams of teachers for ELA and math. So the primary teachers come down for quarterly training, just like the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers. We also provide DIBELS. So there is the DIBELS assessment is, it used to be our state assessment, but now we use it for progress monitoring, and it's measuring the students' fluency, letter naming, letter sounds. It really gives our K1 and 2 teachers a better idea of where to support them in intervention and in their small groups specific to phonics and phonological awareness. We also provide, as I just talked about, really great reading, ongoing training that we actually go to the schools and we model that in the classrooms. And then of course, our intervention programs, we provide training for that as well, both school-based and at the district. And then our curriculum teams for ELA, math, and science support all of the grade levels. So even though they are not part of that accountability system in K1 and 2, our teams still go out and we support those teachers and those students. So the partnership for with the University of Florida Lastinger Center for the Science of Reading is extremely exciting. So we just, might not be exciting for you, it's very exciting for me. So we just had a meeting with them recently where we started walking through how we were going to implement this moving into next school year. So the Science of Reading is research-based and is part of our Florida reading model. It's a little different than the way that we were taught to read, meaning that it moves away from utilizing level texts. It kind of moves more into using text-rich environments so that you're exposing students to multiple texts. You're exposing them to texts that might be above their level, but you provide them with multiple opportunities to read the text. And so when we moved into the best standards for reading, it moved into the Science of Reading, and it's just a little bit of a different way of teaching reading for our students. It still focuses on phonics, phonological awareness, and fluency, but when it starts getting into the comprehension and the fluency and the vocabulary piece, it's a little different than the way that some of our teachers are used to teaching. So it's really important that we provide that professional development. So we will have professional development for all of our literacy coaches, as well as our elementary assistant principals in the Science of Reading. And then all of our kindergarten to 3rd grade teachers as well will participate in some aspect of that professional development. And then they will also provide small group literacy instruction, PD, as well as resources that are really founded in the Science of Reading and helping our teachers to really pinpoint those needs, whether it is extension or it's intervention for our younger students to ensure that we are providing literacy, as I said before, literacy-rich environments, and that we are meeting all of their needs. They go to the schools, they go into the classrooms, and then they also provide our paraprofessionals with training, which is really important in elementary because we have quite a few paraprofessionals that push into the classrooms and help support that small group instruction. So we want to ensure that they're trained in how to do this as well. So some of our next steps in continuing this work moving into next school year is focusing on expanding our primary summer program. So we do have a summer program this summer. Last summer, we only had 2nd grade. This summer, we have kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, our regular 3rd grade camps, and then we also have 4th grade. But in K1 and 2 alone, we have well over 1,000 students that will be attending summer programs this summer. We continue to work on our pre-K alignment, so aligning what's happening in pre-K to what's happening in our kindergarten classrooms, and also working on expansion to ensure that we have those opportunities for our students. And then beginning some discussions for innovative practices. So exploring creative ways to increase our instructional time, especially in K1 and 2, and then what additional dedicated resources can we provide for our primary teachers and students. So our discussion question moving into your breakout sessions is going to be, what community efforts can help support children being kindergarten ready? So we'd really like your thoughts on how can we continue to engage the community, and what efforts do you believe would help really support ensuring that our students are kindergarten ready? In the breakouts, you're going to have a note taker. We're going to have a Jamboard. You'll be able to talk about this, record your thoughts, and then when we come back, we'll be able to share out to the group. So I am going to turn it over, I believe, to Candace Alivedo. Let me stop sharing my screen.
Actually, Dr. Quisenberry, I'm going to lead from here. Good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Jeff Sparrow. I'm the Chief Academic Officer for the School District of Lee County. And Mr. Hertz, I couldn't not attend your last meeting and participate in some way, especially after 3 years together. And I want to echo what Ms. Patrica said. The work you have done over the last 3 years really has been amazing and transformational for these board advisories. So thank you very much, sir, for the work. Tonight, I get the opportunity to share with you a little bit about the work that a group of us have been engaged in with the Carnegie Foundation. Last summer, thanks to Dr. Bernier and his connections across this country, we had the opportunity to be invited to the Carnegie Foundation with a group called the Learning Leadership Network. And we had a chance to engage with 7 other school districts from across the nation that were really powerful, transformational school districts to work on some of the visioning that we have for the school district of Lee County. So tonight, our team, it'll be Dr. Shanna Johnston, Matt Miller, and Candace Alivedo. We're going to share with you a little bit about some of the work that we have been doing as we're creating a portrait of a graduate. What that means for community engagement and your input tonight, what does that look like as we continue to formulate this portrait of a graduate? Dr. Quisenberry just spent about 15-20 minutes going over with you early learning. So that connection from early learning before students walk into the school district of Lee County, all the way through graduation, what are milestones along the way that we should be achieving so that when students walk out the door, we have them career ready for a local economy and college ready for them to take that next step as well. Our work with the Carnegie Foundation is a 3-year commitment. We've just completed year 1, and so you're going to see some of our work with year 1. And here's the goal of the program. When we went last summer, if you go back one more slide, and when we went last summer, we had the opportunity to meet for a few days, and the goal was really for us to hone in our vision of change. We had intentional opportunities to collaborate and consult with other districts from across the country. And then there were also experts and innovators from the Carnegie Foundation that were there. The goal was, after our days there, that we would have a refined vision of transforming the education in our school district. We'd also have a deeper understanding of the current systems we have and how those systems can be transformed to support that new refined vision, and then have a clear step of clear vision of our next steps of what's going to happen over the next year. That really was that goal. And the way that we accomplished that goal was they gave us some structured questions to work with. So our Lee County team would get together, we would work on a set of questions, and then those questions, our answers to those questions, would be presented to another district. That district then would provide feedback to us by asking questions back to us to help us rethink our answers or deepen our answers in a way that we drill down to what the core issues are. So, for example, one of the first sessions we had was connecting our team's vision, and they would ask us, what do we want to work on over the next 3 years as part of this Learning Leaders Network? And why was it important for us to be part of this team? And then if we were extremely successful, what would our district look like in 3 years and 5 years? So that was kind of our starting point, really focusing in on our vision. Then we went to work on what is our current understanding of our systems that we have in the school district. And they asked us to ponder the questions around gaps. So what are our existing gaps between the state of our current system and our future aspirations? And what do we currently think are the factors in our system that are causing those gaps to occur? And then finally, they asked us, what does our team need to understand more deeply these systems factors? So after we talked about vision and systems, then we started talking about our theory of improvement. What could we identify as a way to improve our system and identify assets that could support that? And so they would ask us to identify 3 to 4 high leverage drivers that would really help us accelerate the progress in system transformation. And then we had to ponder what assets or resources in our community might strengthen those improvement efforts. And then we would present those to other districts and get feedback. And then finally, our work was around taking those key drivers, those 3 or 4 key drivers, and then focusing in on what would be our priority to make that a transformation. And that's where we came up with the concept of a portrait of a graduate. And so we're going to talk a little bit about now what, after we went through that work, where are we with this creation of a portrait of a graduate? Next slide. So some of the work that we've accomplished, that we have had the opportunity to share briefly with our school board, some of this initial work. We've shared this with our superintendent cabinet and the Foundation for Lee County Public Schools. And you're getting that same information tonight. We also had an opportunity to visit one of the 7 school districts that were part of the Carnegie Foundation. And we had the chance to visit Phoenix Union High School District to see what they were doing. They have some freshman academies. They have some work around the areas of career and technical education that were thinking a little bit out of the box. And so we had the opportunity to go visit and see schools and talk with some of the leaders there. Meanwhile, we have focused around collecting some data from our community as well. On the left there, you'll see a QR code and a question above that. And the question is, what skills do you want to see in your future employees? We've been engaging with our local business leaders and asking them this question, and they've been filling out this QR code. The superintendent mentioned it at our State of Our Schools a few weeks ago. This has been on social media. The superintendent has an executive roundtable with some local leaders as well, and they've been providing us some data. This is initial footprints into a deeper dialogue with our community. And that's when tonight, District Advisory Council, you're going to get an opportunity via your own data set to also provide for us some data that we're going to use as we analyze trends and what our community would like to see from graduating students to be future employees. If you have students that are in 4th grade, 7th grade, or 11th grade, they may have mentioned to you last week that there was a survey they completed around future jobs, skills that they need in a future job. And that's what that data was for, is for us to continue to deepen our work with a portrait of a graduate. And so Dr. Shanna Johnston, she's going to take us next, and she's going to talk to us about where are we now. So we went to that training, we had a chance to talk a little bit about with some business leaders, we collected some data. So where are we and what are we doing moving forward? Shanna?
Thank you, Dr. Spiro. Good evening, everyone. Where we are now in this process is some of the pieces that we've established as evidence of our work is to establish milestones. So we have agreed that kindergarten, 3rd grade, 8th grade, 10th grade, and 12th grade will have distinct milestones that we measure. And how we're going to do that is through a strategic common approach for each milestone. And we also established these strategic approaches, which include resiliency, career options, and academic readiness. As you can see, our 3-legged stool over to the left kind of represent those strategic approaches. We are really in the midst of working on the resiliency leg of the stool. We have, as Dr. Spiro mentioned earlier, established some emerging stakeholder themes regarding that question on, what skills do you want as a business leader? What skills do you want to see your employees come in with? And so far, with the feedback we have received from the community, we have established 3 emerging themes, and they are the ability to work in a team environment, presentation skills, verbal and written, and then the reliability and dependability for work attendance. And as you all know, in school and in the community, attendance is something else. It's really a struggle sometimes after COVID and also the hurricane. And so this is something that our business community is really looking for in a future employee. As Dr. Spiro mentioned, we shared the surveys with our students, 4th, 7th, and 11th grade this week. And so those themes are to be determined. This is a work in progress. And so our goal is to take these themes and kind of backwards design so that, for example, the ability to work in a team environment. What can we do to make sure that our students in pre-K, kindergarten through 2nd, 3rd through 5th, all the way through, establish that ability to work in a team environment? And so we're really, these common approaches or strategic approaches will become a thread that go all the way through pre-K through 12th grade. But it will help us to intentionally work on those skills. And then we have also built a year 2 timeline. So beginning this summer, we will enter year 2 of the project. And so we have been establishing that timeline that you will hear about in just a few minutes.
Shanna, you muted yourself.
Thank you. So some of the challenges that we have overcome through this past year is really coming out of the shadow of COVID. We really were trying to make that shift of really focusing on academic achievement with our students. And another challenge that we had was through the change in senior leadership, not really a challenge, but it's a change, right? So with any change, we needed to focus, more on organizational system realignment. And then here comes Hurricane Ian. And so our project, developing the portrait of a graduate, came to a halt. And so we're going to show you this video just to take a look back of where we were. And then in a few minutes, we'll tell you where we're going to go.
Ian has made landfall as a Category 4, winds of 155 miles per hour, just 2 miles per hour short of that Category 5 status.
This is going to bring a significant and crippling effect in Southwest Florida. This is one of the strongest storms that we have literally ever seen.
The power of this water is insane. It is unreal to watch.
The storm's impact was historic and disproportional across this great Southwest Florida community. People have lost lives, their homes, and much, if not all, of their personal property. None of us were untouched by this hurricane. Citizens, community members, support professionals, teachers, this hurricane touched us all.
And to see a destroy like this is really painful.
But I know our community will rise from this historic event.
There's going to be a need for years.
We were ground zero for Ian. However, this is not going to stop us from opening our schools as soon as we can.
There's hope here. And it looks like we're getting back to normal.
We all love this community, and we will take back what this storm has attempted to take from us. Progress is progress. Even incremental progress is the way we're going to live. Our goal is to return to an educational environment for our students and teachers on Monday, October 17th.
13 schools open today, another 15 open tomorrow. By Wednesday, more than half of the schools in Lee County School District will be open.
So our goal today is just to love on our kids, let them know that we're happy that they're back, and just take it from there, one day at a time. I love school. This is my favorite thing about all the days is about school. I get to learn and have friends.
And there was a lot of moving parts. It was a puzzle, but you know, here we are. We're making it happen. We got it happening.
We are proud to see the way this community has responded in such a catastrophic event. I'm also proud of the way our employees of this school district has responded as well. We've been in this together and we will remain together.
Thank you. So that kind of resets what we have overcome this year, which is huge. And I don't know about anybody else, but every time I watch that video, I get a little bit emotional. It's a miracle where we have come since then, 8 months ago. And again, we had to reset and bring back that academic focus after the hurricane through benchmark alignment, really having and leading that focus. It's really amazing that we reopened schools after the hurricane after 17 days. We really took a lot of lessons learned from Bay County, who experienced such a hurricane as Hurricane Ian. It took them over 4 months to reopen, but we used their lessons learned and they really helped us to expedite our reopening plan. And so we're really proud of the community and how the community came together after Hurricane Ian to make this happen. Together, we made it happen. So some lessons learned along the way with the Carnegie project is realigning the makeup of the team. So I was added to the team to bring the elementary side of things. And then Mr. Matt Miller, principal of Cypress Lake High School, was added to bring his expertise in the middle school area. We created then a cadence of meetings so that we can continue this work despite the challenges that we faced to continue working on the portrait of a graduate. And then we have been really pleased with the business community and the positive engagement that we have received and getting their feedback on the workforce skills that they're looking for. So here are some things by those milestones that we're going to kind of talk about. And you can see our cutie on the left there on the three-legged stool. One of those legs represented, as we mentioned earlier, resiliency, career options, and then the last one is academic readiness. So Dr. Quisenberry she's just bringing it when it comes to the early learning. She has really worked hard with her team to set up what she shared with you before, the pre-K expansion Young 5 program. We are part of the early learning steering committee, and then also partnering with Florida Gulf Coast University on the early learning coalition. Even in pre-K through grade 2, we can talk about career options. We can talk about future career opportunities. And that is our plan to do that. Some academic readiness pieces that we're going to make sure that we measure are kindergarten readiness. So how are our students coming to us ready for school? That's really important so that we know where to go. And then the science of reading, as Dr. Quisenberry mentioned before, I won't go through that again. Something I'm really excited about is a primary school within a school. So we are really excited to have a strategic focus next year on K-2, where our assistant principals are going to take some ownership and really lead that charge with the programs that Dr. Quisenberry talked about in partnership with University of Florida and the science of reading. We are really excited about that. And then working with an external consultant that will be reviewing our kindergarten through second grade curriculum. For grades 3 through 5, again, that same thread you'll see throughout is resiliency, career options, and academic readiness. 5th grade is going to be our milestone for resiliency. And how we're going to measure that is through the Student Gallup poll. Many of you have probably heard of Gallup, but the Student Gallup poll measures various aspects of student engagement, well-being, and opinions of the students. It aims to capture the perspectives of students on topics like academic experience, their sense of belonging, which is a basic need, emotional well-being, relationships with teachers and peers, and then their future aspirations. The poll also provides valuable insights to educators, policymakers, and researchers so that we can understand and improve the learning environment for our students. For the career options, we're going to use a tool called Zello. And Zello is an online college and career readiness platform used in schools across the United States, as well as in Florida. And it is designed to help students explore career paths, set goals, and plan their future. Zello offers various resources, assessments, and tools to assist students in making informed decisions about their educational and career choices. This is kind of like the sister of Naviance that you all heard of before in previous DAC meetings. And then finally, academic readiness. We are going to measure the 3rd grade English Language Arts State Assessment FAST, because we know that students who read proficiently by 3rd grade are set up for success. And now we have Matt Miller, who is going to share with you the 3-legged stool when it comes to 6th through 8th grade.
Well, good evening, everybody. Like Dr. Johnson said, my name is Matt Miller. I'm currently the principal at Cypress Lake Middle School, and it's my pleasure to present to you all briefly this evening regarding our piece of this plan for grades 6 through 8, maintaining our focus here on our 3-legged stool. We've got our first leg of the stool, resiliency, and students being ready to learn. You have heard previously about the Naviance platform, and there are several tools within that platform that our team feels would be very beneficial for our students, because those middle school years are quite important for students to really start to think about their own strengths, their own opportunities for growth, and start thinking about their own future career options. It's simply too late when we're looking at our high school diploma and then we decide what our pathway is going to be. So that first piece, the college career and life readiness curriculum through Naviance, for students these days, there's so many potential post-secondary options. A student who's recently graduated high school could choose to go to college, maybe a technical school. They could choose to join the military, possibly directly enter the workforce, maybe even find an internship, paid or unpaid. So in this context, it can really be difficult sometimes for students to know which skills are essential for them to find future success in their chosen path in life. And the college career and life readiness curriculum provided by Naviance provides interactive, self-paced lessons focused on the skills needed for this future success. And it really becomes tailored more towards what career interests they might have. Our district also, you're well aware, I'm sure, of Wellness Wednesdays curriculum and how that is embedded within our plan throughout the year. And the college career and life readiness curriculum through Naviance really supplements that. Moving on to our career options leg of the stool, we have our first piece there would be the self-discovery tools. And I'll be really brief here. These tools, like the name says, they're designed to help students uncover strengths and interests, maybe help them make informed decisions about their futures. And these tools allow students to begin thinking in more meaningful terms about that future career or college pathway within the context of their strengths and interests. So it helps guide them towards a direction where they might find success. The career exploration and planning tools, for middle school students as well as high school students, they can explore specific careers. This platform provides engaging videos, possibly work-based learning opportunities, and things that align directly to their future academic plans and goals. We plan to, moving on to the JA Inspire career event bullet there. We had a really successful rollout of this program this year. We had dozens of industry professionals in kind of a career fair format through Junior Achievement. We partnered with them as a school district and sent nearly every single 8th grader in the district. It was a wonderful event, and we hope to build upon that. The next piece there, My Career Shines, it's something that we embed into 8th grade right now for career exploration. And that's possibly going to sunset as we look for something else that more, closely aligns to Senate Bill 240, working its way through the Florida legislature. And our third and final leg of our stool, as Dr. Johnson mentioned earlier, academic readiness, a great benchmark for us. If 8th grade is going to be our benchmark year in this continuum, we're going to look at the ELA state assessment, fast reading, as well as 8th grade math, but that will also incorporate the Algebra 1 end of course exam because many of our 8th graders take that. But in a nutshell, we're going to benchmark again with our academic readiness as it relates to English language arts and mathematics. And that would be our middle school piece. Thank you for your time. I'm going to turn it over at this time to Candace Oliveto.
Thank you, Matt. So bringing us home with the high school pieces there, you're going to notice on your screen, many of the components are the same ones that you just heard Mr. Miller discuss, because as we've talked throughout tonight, we're looking to align our systems K-12 and build our portrait of a graduate starting in those early years. So you'll see the same components there. And as we discussed 2 months ago, really leveraging Naviance for students to think about what it is they would like to engage in post-secondary. So underneath both resiliency and career options, you see we're going to utilize our Naviance platform, but in a way in which students are looking at college applications, career, and they're building that post-secondary inside of there. So the real shift comes in and looking at their academic readiness of onboarding our freshmen. And what does that look like? Right now, each school has a unique way of onboarding our freshmen, but we would like to make that more systemic, of having one way in which students, those first couple days of school, receive the same information across and lay their groundwork to start that freshman year. As we know, that's the pivotal year to being on track for an on-time graduation. So our metrics that we'll be measuring, much like that at elementary and middle school, will be our state assessments, but it's also going to be looking at our high school graduation rates, because our ultimate goal of all of this is, one, we've built a portrait of our graduate, taking in our feedback from our various stakeholders, being those community members that we started the presentation with, our students, and tonight getting feedback from you as our parents as well, of what is it that you want to see, knowing these are our metrics and where we'd like to go. What are the skills that are necessary for you as a parent for your future graduate? So leading us into our breakouts, as Dr. Quisenberry ended her presentation earlier, she has a specific question that we would like your feedback on, but we also have one tonight that you're going to complete for us. And it's, what skills do you want to see in your future graduate? Again, the lens we're hoping that you'll provide for us is that parent lens. That's the feedback we're looking from this group this evening. So as you go into your breakout rooms, you have 2 sets of tasks. There'll be a Jamboard in which we will collect the feedback from the question that Dr. Quisenberry provided earlier. But the question around our portrait of a graduate, we're going to collect via a Google form this evening. That Google form will be made available in the minutes of this meeting. As Dr. Spiro started us off first thing, we're keeping each of the data points separate. So we're able to look back and stratify that data and say, here's what our parents are looking for compared to what our students believe they need, and what are our business partners. So in each of your breakouts, you will be working off of these 2 pieces this evening, and we are truly looking forward to the feedback that you will be providing us. With that, I believe I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Cupid McCoy.
Actually, Chair Hertz, are you comfortable with the group transitioning to?
Sure, I think we are, we're right on time to go to our breakout sessions, and I think that would be appropriate at this time. So everyone, I'll remind you in your agenda and in the invitation that was sent out, you have a meeting ID code that you can use to join the breakout sessions. And then when that time is up, which should be approximately 7:24 or 7:25, you can use your same link that you used to come here to come back.
Well, I wanted to go ahead and jump on in then. Everybody should have the link in the chat now to go ahead and get in there and start putting in some of their feedback. With the questions being, and if you can't get into the Jamboard, feel free to raise your hand here or unmute and share, and somebody can put it in for you. But it looks like we're going to start with that first question from the early literacy, which is what community efforts can help support children being kindergarten ready. I actually had quite a few questions about this program. This was the first time hearing about it, and one of my children is going to be impacted within that age group. And so I'm really kind of curious, beyond community efforts, where we get more information, how we get in, all that sort of stuff, especially if he's already signed up with an alternative school that's not one of the host schools.
You want me to answer that, or do you want me to?
I mean, that'd be great if you had
Okay.
an answer. I don't know if you
you
just
want
wrote that on the Jamboard or not, but
Yep. So the way that we communicate it is through student enrollment is one of our first pieces. So when families go to student enrollment, those schools that have a Young Five are marked on the actual student enrollment form. And then they have a flyer and brochures that they provide. There is also information on the school district website. Typically, I think it fell off now because of summer school, but the recording, like when you call a school or you're on hold for the district office, the recording will say, for more information on the Young Five program, and it'll kind of talk through. So that's one of our pieces that we do. We've pushed out through social media as well. But to answer your second part of your question, and we also do school messengers out to incoming kindergarten student, but we're not able to communicate with our incoming kindergarten students until they've registered for kindergarten, right? And so we try to also send those communications to our private pre-K providers, as well as our public pre-K classrooms, but of course that doesn't reach everybody. So once you've already registered for a kindergarten school, you can request to be moved to one of the schools for the Young Five. So that's been happening a lot the last 2 months. And so there is a Young Five email address. It's young5@leeschools.net. So anyone that has questions can email young5@leeschools.net. And then one of the members of the curriculum department that works with the Young Five programs is able to answer that question, the questions, or direct you to the right person to answer that question. So we work really closely with student enrollment to be able to ensure that families that want that opportunity are able to be provided that opportunity.
And is Young Five the number or the word?
It's the word young and the word five, yes.
Okay. Speaking, I mean, it does kind of roll into what community efforts can help support children being kindergarten ready. As a parent of a 4-year-old who will be starting school at 4 because his birthday is 10 days before the cutoff at August 20th, I have not received anything.
Okay.
So
that's great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah. We didn't get anything from his preschool. We didn't get anything.
Is he in a private preschool? I mean, it's not
all
a school,
preschools private?
It's not a school, it's not a school district pre-K. It's at a separate center. Yep. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
So so just the increase in communication would be fantastic, because this was the first I had heard about it. And that is one of my greatest concerns with him going into kindergarten, with him being so young. So I appreciate the information on that. It looks like we've got some people who have added on here too. And then Ken, once I read these off, I will get your hand. Increase communication about Young Five with area preschools, expand the Young Five program. Whoever put that on there, I would love to hear more from you on that and what you mean by expanding the Young Five program. Kindergarten boot camp during summer to get students acclimated to our school and the school setting. absolutely agree with that. Ken, why don't you go ahead and share what you wanted to add to? You're muted.
Sorry about that. Is the Young Five program an optional program for parents that think their child may need that? Or is that something we want to roll out that basically you're almost going to change the enrollment date to a May 1st and then have everybody go to a Young Five? Because it seems like that might be the direction it sounds like we're going. And just not sure if that's what we're looking at, is changing the enrollment date to a May 1st rather than September 1st.
If I had the power to do that, I would, but I do not. The state holds the power for moving that to May 1st. And so it is a family choice. So we work with families. It's not a school choice, it's the family choice, which is what's great about this program as well, is the schools really work with the families for if they believe that their child would benefit, and then the family has to agree for the child to be in the program.
That kind of rolls into the expansion of the question. Dr. Maisie Adams said mine was expanded to more schools. And that's kind of where I think Ken was also going with that, if it's going to be expanded. And that is a decision, because our school is not one of the ones that was listed on the list. And we obviously love our school, or I wouldn't be sitting here. So having to break up my children would have to be a challenging choice.
And I will say, to add to that, that I have had many families last year and this year that have had to make that decision, and they pull their child back to the school that the siblings are at when they go to kindergarten. So they have them in the Young Five program at the school that has that availability, and then they bring them back. And again, student enrollment works with those families to ensure that they're able to do that. As far as expanding the Young Five to all of the schools, that's based off of the number of families that enroll. So the more families that begin to enroll in the program, we would love to expand it so that every school has the program. We have not been successful, and it's a lot of things. It just started. Communication, as you said, not all families know about it until they feel like it's too late, because the students are already, enrolled and they're starting. And so I think that as that communication increases and families become more aware of it, that we will be able to expand to be able to fill the programs, hopefully to all of the schools.
Okay. Carrie Rathbun, you had your hand up first, so I'm going to go to you next.
Yeah, I just have a question, because we had experience with a student this year that we tried to encourage the parents or the family to explore the Young Five program. And then by the time they decided that they wanted to do it, because the child was already started in kindergarten, there was like some kind of cutoff date. Can you explain that a little bit too, so that everybody understands that as well?
Yes. So because of capacity and transitions, we only allow for those transfers for the Young Five to be the first couple of weeks of school. It's usually the first month. So if families, after they get into school, the first 4 weeks, if they decide to transfer, then we transfer. If it's after those 4 weeks, then we hold off, because that's part of our school enrollment process, is that we don't transfer students in the beginning, in the middle of the school year. We hold off until second semester. And so if the family still believes that their student would benefit from the program, then we transfer them over at the second semester.
And also, I would say that I would object to making it mandatory for the Young Five, because we see a lot of kids that come in at a younger age, that if they have a lot of support at home, they do just fine in kindergarten. So we don't want to discourage parents from signing their kids up to kindergarten if they are ready. Because, it's a maturity thing for the kids, but it's also, what they already know and how much of the content they already come in with. A lot of kids come from, as we know, various experience levels.
And that kind of leads into too, like, what sort of qualifications or considerations should parents think of when considering the program, and whether or not their kid's a candidate for it?
So when we talk to parents about it, it's not based on one or the other. So it's not solely based on developmental and social emotional, but it's also not solely based on academic. It's a little bit of a mix of both. And so when you ask for specific qualifications, there's not really anything specific, except for that maybe the student is immature, because they're young. Maybe they are struggling a little developmentally because they're young in comparison to their peers. Maybe they're not ready because kindergarten is now very rigorous. They might not be ready for the rigor of kindergarten academically, but we do find that some of the students that have completed Young 5 or were in Young 5 this school year as well, needed more of the developmental and not so much of the academic. And then we see it the other way as well, where in those classrooms, we're able to really differentiate so that even if the student is higher academically, but just needed a little more support developmentally and social emotionally, that teacher is able to differentiate to be able to meet their needs as well. That's a big question that I get from teachers and from parents as well is, my student's doing great academically. They're probably kindergarten ready. They just need a little bit more time to mature. And that's okay. That's what this program is for as well.
If I could just interrupt for just one quick second, I just want to make sure everybody knows how to use the Jamboard. Thank you, Natalie, for the suggestion. So once you click on the link that's in the chat box, that's at the top, I'll share that link again. You come over, it opens to what you see on the screen, and you're going to come over to the little, it looks like a little sticky note, and you just click on that and it creates a sticky note for you to type your comments and your feedback on. So I hope that helps. You just press enter and then it adds it to the Jamboard.
And also too, if you're struggling with it, feel free to raise your hand and add in. I've got a hand up from Dr. Maisie Adams. If you'd like to go ahead and unmute for that. And we do have some comments in the chat and Ken Wilbert will be after that.
Yeah, so Chelsea, like you, I am a mom of a child that will also be a very young 5 and really don't want to split my kids up. So my question is there the potential for surveying parents that are already at these schools to see if they have siblings that would be potential candidates for Young 5? Rather than making us enroll in other schools and then switch? Because the logistics of that just don't really work for us.
That is a great question. I can take that back.
And if I can expand on that too, having resources for Young 5 candidates who can't be split up. Maybe if it's not the full program, but at least some additional resources to help continue, supporting them. That would be really great information as well.
Thank you.
Let's see here. We have a comment in the chat. Once a student is enrolled in Y5, can the teacher advocate for pushing them to kinder if they believe they're already ready and finishing the Y5 program?
Yes, as long as the family agrees.
And would they end up going into the same school as their current enrollment with the Y5 program, or would they be able to join siblings?
That would also depend on the family. And so if the family wanted to go to where the siblings were, we would work with student enrollment to move them. That's the same for, we have had a few students, not many, but a few, that at the end of Young 5, the teacher and the family were like, you know what, he or she grew much quicker than what we expected. They're ready for first grade. That we don't believe that they really need to go into kindergarten. And so we give them an end of the year kindergarten assessment to ensure that they don't have any holes. Because again, we wouldn't want to put them in to a situation where then they're not going to be successful. And so we give them an end of year kindergarten assessment. And as long as they're academically have mastered all the standards for kindergarten and are ready for first grade, then we've moved them up to first grade without that. And so it's very fluid. And we really look at individualized students and individualized families for those decisions.
Ken, would you like to share?
Yeah, I guess my question is, I know with student enrollment, there are maximums and wait lists. So what would happen? I mean, what is the threshold for the maximum size of a classroom? If there's a larger demand for the Y5 program, would that be something that is expanded on with student enrollment, or would it just be, unfortunately, if you didn't sign up in time, then you're not eligible for the program, where we're going to, almost hold somebody back because they didn't sign up in time? Or Is that something that expands in the school because there's a higher demand?
It would expand into the schools for the higher demand. Similar to what we do with enrollment for other kindergarten classrooms. So as the capacity increases, we're able to increase those units. So it would follow those same processes.
So it wouldn't be like a wait list where if it opens up then, or somebody comes out, then you'd be able to get in. They'll automatically be in if they want that program.
Haven't had that problem yet, but
Okay.
that would be a great problem to have, to be able to
Exactly.
solve, to have that many students enrolled. Yeah.
I have to add too, though, our numbers may not be as reliable as we might think, because there are probably parents like myself and Dr. Adams who won't even raise our hands for the program because of the sibling concerns. So there might be a lot more kids out there who could benefit from the program and help expand the program, but we're not identifying them because of alternative family concerns.
Yep.
Dr. Russ?
Yes, hi. Have we considered or in your meetings a possible like transitional first grade or a young 6 or 7 for first grade? I worked a couple counties back a couple years ago, and I got to do a transitional first grade classroom at that point. This was in the 90s. It went quite well. It was an interesting approach, and it sounds like if we have kindergarten families that aren't yet dialed in or aware, or they don't make the cutoff, they might be able to then benefit from a different type of environment for their then first grader that might meet their needs in a different way.
It's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah.
How much are we relying on or looking into how other school districts might handle similar programs? I know where we've lived previously, they have what's called TK, which was almost an identical program for kids who were September 1st to December 1st birthdays. And it was a mandatory program for those kids. It wasn't.
Was that in another state?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with it already?
Yeah, so when you ask about research, when we researched the state of Florida, because the state of Florida has pre-K, universal pre-K, that's what they fund. They don't fund what you're referring to, which is what Michigan funds, California funds, New York funds, where there's different ways that they do the transitional kindergarten, like what Dr. Russ is referring to, or they do, I believe they actually call it Young 5 in Michigan. And that one is to catch the kids that miss the deadline. It's from September 1st to I think December 1st or January or something like that. So other states have different ways that they run, that they're running similar programs to support the younger students. But in the state of Florida, I have not found any other district that does anything like this.
So the county where I worked back in the day, it was called Hernando County.
Yeah.
Which is north of Pinellas and Pasco. That was an interesting time. That was when I had my first child. That same year coincided. That was very special. Yeah.
We have lots of Post-its here that we have not read off. So
Sorry.
I'm going to take a minute. No, it's fine. We've got a lot of interest in this particular program right now. So just to kind of roll into some of these Post-it notes, maybe once a month literacy and math programs at various schools for pre-K age students. That's a great idea. Bingo for books is always popular at our school, and maybe like programs that are similar for the pre-K and kinder age would be a great idea. Just kind of rolling with that suggestion. Add partnerships with private VPKs to create awareness and build curriculum to help the VPKs prepare their students for kindergarten. Certify VPK as a Lee County curriculum VPK. I think that they do follow some sort of curriculum, correct?
The Lee County VPK, yes. The private centers are not, if they're Head Start, they're required to follow Head Start, but if they're VPK programs, they're not required. There's not a state requirement for curriculum, but if they're a public school district VPK, yes.
Okay, that's really interesting. Ours was private and we got iReady or Renaissance testing from him. So I assumed that they were doing some sort of curriculum. I should probably know that answer though.
Yeah, it was their choice. It wasn't state required.
Okay.
And for the sake of time, I'm just going to interrupt again. Sorry. We can keep the discussion going, but while we're discussing the early childhood pieces, please go ahead and access that Google form and enter your the question about the portrait of a graduate. What your thoughts are. We really would love to hear from you.
I will read these off and then we can switch slides. Find ways to engage multilingual families, especially young five families, with the ways to help at home. This can be hard if there's a language barrier. Agreed. Create a program that allows families to have an assessment of their child in July that'll allow for an informed decision, or maybe even earlier than July, because we're really making school decisions at the very beginning of the year. But if that would be very helpful to have an idea from our VPK, whether or not, our children would be good candidates for the program, similar to a 2-week kindergarten program. Increase parental knowledge of requirements of kindergarten, encourage parents to read to their young children always. Communicate approved educational online resources for parents to encourage phonics, reading, etc. for their younger kiddos. Kindergarten boot camp during summer to get acclimated or school setting, absolutely. Provide incentives for parents, such as grants for before after care. Learning opportunities. Can you scoot that one over so I can read the bottom of the, yes, thank you. Learning opportunities for parents to understand how they can support kindergarten readiness at home. Yeah, I think those are all really great suggestions. Hopefully that's kind of what you're looking for.
Can I just add one thing before we switch over, Shanna? For the kindergarten boot camp during the summer, I just want to share that we are doing that this summer. It's the schools are able to opt in, so they're not required to provide the boot camp, but it's called Jumpstart Kindergarten. I don't know the number of schools that are hosting it off of the top of my head, but we have quite a few. It's over 20, might be over 30. So those incoming kindergarten students will get that communication next week of the dates and the times. It's not a full week or a full 2 weeks. Some schools are only doing 2 or 3 days. Some schools are doing like 4 days, half days, but it's for that purpose, to get the students in, kind of get them acclimated of where your classroom is, where's the cafeteria, here's the, this is recess, and then also to get the parents acclimated of the processes of parent pickup, parent drop off, and the school day for their students. So that is something that we are implementing this year.
Can I add maybe a great idea, or if maybe somebody could put this on the Jamboard for me, is maybe standardizing that. I see a lot of people who say that they've taken advantage of it. That's awesome. Our school's going to offer it, but it's a 2-hour window on one single day. And I'm not sure how effective that is. Having 4 half days would have been a really cool choice. So, all right, let's go ahead and switch over, if you don't mind switching our screen here.
All right, so we don't have another screen for the portrait of a graduate.
Oh, we don't.
We don't. So, but I have included the link in the chat and you all can access that. I see a few questions here regarding that. Everyone on this.
What if I open it, Shanna? Can I open it?
Yeah, you can open it.
Hold on, let me find it.
So anyone on this call can go ahead and complete the form.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
If you choose.
It's good to see what that looks like.
Yes, it's a Google form. And if we can just take the last like 30 seconds or so, a minute, and go ahead and do that. Unfortunately, we always have such a wonderful discussion in our elementary group, but our time is up. So please take the last minute or so and complete this form. We would love to hear your thoughts, and then we can head back to the main group. And Chelsea, any last words that you have before we go back?
No, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you for making it to the last one, like a couple days before school. I wasn't sure if we'd hit quorum, to be honest. So I appreciate seeing everybody here, and it's been a great year, and thank you for everything that you guys have done. It's been a great presentation and a really great conversation. So if anybody else has any last comments they need to or want to make, feel free to raise your hand real fast, but otherwise let's go ahead and head back.
So the first piece here on this Jamboard goes back to the piece that Dr. Quisenberry presented. And what she was looking for us to discuss and come up with some ideas as a middle school group on this Jamboard is the question listed there: what community efforts can help support children being kindergarten ready? And that's the area around which that we're looking for some feedback from you all this evening. It should be something that we can all add to.
Mr. Miller, I have it. It's just edit. It's just view only. It's not letting edit.
Oh, well, I am not the owner of the Jamboard, so I'm gonna have to touch base with Candace. Just one moment, please.
Matt, I think I'm able to share it.
Are you? I don't have ownership rights to it. Could you, Mrs. Mayor?
I might, I usually do, so let's see.
That's what I get for not creating this myself.
I'm gonna make you, hold on.
Oh, I think I got it, actually. I think I can update it.
Yeah, I don't have it.
I think I just made it, I think I just made anybody with a link an editor. So could a member try it again, please?
It should be up on the screen though, so we can all see each other, Matt, is what it normally is. So I'm trying to see.
Yeah, you're the host, Linda, so you'll have to share your screen.
Okay.
With that up. I see a note, so it's editable.
You see it?
Yep.
Okay.
We could either share it, or if everybody opened it on their own computer, we'll all see the same thing.
Okay. I'll make you a co-host and then you can do it.
Okay.
How about that? You're a co-host now.
Good. I'll share my screen with everybody.
Everybody kind of likes seeing when we're sharing, Matt, and they're posting them. I don't know why it wasn't letting me post it. I couldn't get it to open. Oh, there we go.
Now everybody can see the share in Zoom. Right?
Yep.
Okay. So we can start putting our sticky notes on there, just brainstorming our ideas around this essential question. Lots of good ideas starting to roll in. Right, we're having a great brainstorming session here. I see a lot of good things. I'm just sort of moving some of these notes around so we can see them all. I think later our team can organize these into, similar categories and get these ideas aligned. Looks like we're kind of winding down with the placement of the notes. It looks like we've got 17 thus far. We'll do 18 just popped up. I think as our school district looks to expand not only our own pre-K offerings, but possibly partnerships with local pre-K providers to get, a more similar framework in place. There's a lot of opportunity for growth there. See multiple things regarding the public library, supply drive. All right, well, thank you so much, everybody, for your input there. We'll take maybe one more minute to wrap up, or if anybody has anything they'd like to add or a clarifying question they would like to pose, now would be a good time. Okay, well, we're about halfway through our time already in our breakout. Oh, there's some more. Reading initiatives at local restaurants. But we still have some ideas coming in. I will certainly wait for a moment before we move on. Right, well, thank you. I'm going to stop that screen share. And the second piece for our breakout this evening, we talked about wanting members' thoughts on the skills that you might want to see in a future graduate. I know we're the middle school level. It's very interesting in between piece of the journey, pre-K through 12, but our voice is very important because it's a very, that school level is a very transitional part in a student's journey. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen again. Just have to get this form up. My apologies, my computer is not acting too quickly this evening. Okay, you should be able to see the form we're going to look at. But first, if there's any discussion amongst the group, any questions about, you know, what the task at hand for us this evening is, you know, it's a pretty simple form. We choose our level and it's an open-ended question listing skills that you might think that we as an educational organization need to instill in our students on their path towards graduating high school and going off into their post-secondary path of choice. Does any member have any questions they would like to ask at this time before I paste the link to the form in the chat? Okay. With no questions, I will visit the chat here and paste this link in. Everybody should be able to submit. And there it is. If anybody has any trouble bringing that up or interacting with it, please let me know. I'd be happy to help. Okay, so we can all take a moment at this time and input to the form the skills we would like to see in our future graduate.
Mine's saying that it requires permission.
Well, it should be accepting answers.
Mine's working, Matt, just to let you know.
Looks like it's accepting answers. Let me just review the permissions on the form to make sure everybody can use it. Is anybody else having any trouble using the form?
I think it's telling us that you have to, the form has to be like through the district. So using your district credentials, maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I didn't create it, but I'll see if I can edit the permissions on it.
Form can only be viewed by users in the owner's organization.
Yeah, that means within the school district of Lee County. So I'm gonna have to.
Yeah.
I'll touch base with the creator.
Matt, I'm having Candace is checking on it right now.
I appreciate it. I was just about to have her do that. I appreciate your help, Dr. Cuban McCoy. The world of technology, right? One of the members check the form again for me, please.
I was able
Okay.
to access it without any school district credentials.
I think she went in and changed that setting for us, so we all should be good to go. And here I thought we might get through our breakout with a couple minutes to spare. Okay, so we can fill it in. I think we have about 5 minutes left before they're expecting us back in the main Zoom meeting. Right. Well, thank you so much for your feedback. Please take your time and list as many things as you would like. And that'll wrap up things for our middle school breakout this evening. Just make sure you're back in the main room, please, in about 3 or 4 minutes so we can continue the whole group meeting. And again, thank you so much for your input.
Good evening, Jessica. You want to start us off?
Sure. I was wondering if there's anybody else joining, but I guess we've got everybody. So for the question, what community efforts can help support children being kindergarten ready? You guys can feel free to post on the Jamboard, or if you want to raise your hand to talk, if that's easier. I think most people are on computers, so we don't have to worry about that, but I'm gonna give you guys a minute to think and post some comments, and then we can kind of discuss them.
So you have somebody with a hand up.
I apologize. I was looking at the Jamboard. Kelly, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and.
Okay, thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Okay, great. I am on a phone, so I'm never quite sure if I'm doing it right. But it is difficult for me to add to the Jamboard, so I just thought I would try to contribute verbally. I think in terms of community efforts that can help support children being kindergarten ready, I think of a couple of areas. One is certainly with VPK these last many years. As a state, we have expanded our ability for families to enroll their children in low or no cost pre-kindergarten. But I think there's still limits to that. And for many families, especially some of those programs are maybe 3 full days a week, but not 5, or maybe 5 part days a week. And then you have to, pay the difference in either of those cases for your child to be full-time enrolled. I love what I heard earlier about, the expansion of both the pre-K and the young 5 opportunities within the district, and how you all are trying to, find creative funding for those, since many times the funding isn't coming, from the state level to do those across the board. I have a daughter who's got 1 more year till she's finished at FGC and wants to be a pre-K teacher, and definitely she's interested in those types of opportunities to help grow those students. But back to the community side, I think just continuing to expand, those options, whether it is, certainly through the district, but even the ones that are outside of the district, so that families can provide their children with that pre-kindergarten education that's truly focused on the developmental and the social emotional. I mean, we've seen that in all of our grade levels be such an issue, I feel like, the last few years, that the more that we can start that early is important. And that also relates to like the social service, net in our community. And whether it's some of the associated programs that are offered that are, I'm thinking, for example, low to no cost health services. I mean, those kinds of things are helping those young students be ready to learn when they do go to VPK, or when they do go to some of these other, early education programs. So things like that, things that in the social service realm that help families, stay employed, and things like this that are increasing the stability of families, and then allowing them then to focus on things like, where's my child going to VPK, and are they learning anything while they're there? And the things that can get dropped by families when they have to be so focused on putting enough food on the table, or some of the other parts of life, that sometimes the social emotional well-being of the child is maybe not as big of a focus. And so those are some areas, I think, from a community perspective, with the increase of the pre-K opportunities and the integration, perhaps, with social service services and agencies, maybe can help build that pre-kindergarten and early childhood readiness.
Thank you, Kelly. That was a very detailed, I think that was probably more than you could have gotten on the Jamboard. That's some really insightful ideas. Is there anybody else that is having trouble commenting on the Jamboard that would like to just share verbally? I took some notes on what Kelly said. Okay, if not, then let's go to the Jamboard and see if any of the comments on it provide us with some other stepping off points for further discussion. I did see a theme on some of these. Continuing to encourage parents to read to or with their children and promote ready accessibility to age-appropriate books goes right along with the print-rich environment, extending beyond the classroom and into the community. Again, talking about some points of service in like food service, including the issue of language. I think that is one thing that I have seen as a teacher lately is an influx of students speaking other languages. And I don't know if it's specific to our high school or not. So if there's anybody that could speak to that, but that would be something else that I would think is probably important, is to make some of these community services and education of what parents need to do with their kids available in other languages.
So Jessica, just to kind of share with you, it's not unique just to the high school as well. And at one point, Dr. K in the earlier school year, I will look for the slide because I want to get the number right and make sure we give it to Christine to provide you all. But it was a metric around the state, and other districts were not only seeing their enrollment go down, but their students who were coming in not speaking English as their first language was going down. For Lee County, our enrollment is up, and we were showing an increase of, I believe it was almost 44% of our students whose first language was not English. So we are seeing that as a district. But again, I want to make sure I will ask Christine to put in the minutes the exact percentage that Dr. K had presented earlier in the school year. So it's unique that you say that, because that is something we're seeing as a K-12 system.
Thank you for that insight. Let's see. So educating parents about the importance of interactions. I know that Kelly mentioned that social developmental information that needs to go out and kind of help parents understand it. And again, some of that is through this idea of places where families would go for help, whether it's libraries, doctors, churches, and really bringing in the community aspect, including, again, libraries with promoting books, also through sales, similar to the ones done in elementary schools. Let's see. And I see Rich from a variety of careers. We used to have parents present their careers daughter day, having grads come back, monthly reading events. So medical information. So again, that idea of having lots of people from the community contribute to the enrichment for all these families. And then teaching the parents to interact with the schools and teachers, which I think is probably a big thing, especially too, as we look at people coming from other cultures, because there are teachers have different roles in different countries, and figuring out where those, I think somebody mentioned points of service, like where do we need to go to reach these parents that are less, have less access to this kind of early pre-K information and skills and things that they need to know. We also want to add something. I've seen some more notes on the Jamboard.
Can I just add something else that I thought of while you were speaking about that, and kind of relates back to the young five, and even when I think it was Dr. Quisenberry was talking about the how many students are in the summer reading programs at that young early childhood level, and this is maybe not this maybe is just a dream idea and not realistic from a resource and a logistical perspective, but thinking about kindergartners and coming into that school environment and the rigor that we have in kindergarten at this stage in our culture and our society, maybe compared to earlier years. I mean, what if there was a summer camp, or maybe it's not maybe it's just a week before the other kids are starting, where you're transitioning a little slower with that kindergarten class. Again, I know there's a bunch of things that go into that in terms of staffing and resources and the building and the teachers and all of that, but just something that kind of popped into mind. And we're thinking about, if we're doing all these, we're able to coordinate those things at a district level for summer camps. And I know very early on, I had exposures to some of the ESE summer programming that happens in the district. I don't know, it's just a thought about if our rigor is going to stay the same, or perhaps even get stronger, as it seems like our education system has kind of moved in that direction. Is there a way to help transition into that? And I know that a lot of those kids will have had some sort of VPK at that point, but again, now they're coming into that kindergarten classroom where right away, full day, 5 days a week, you know, we got a lot of standards to meet, we got a lot of things to do, you know, new building, how do you eat lunch, how do you go to the bathroom, you know, all those things. And, you know, some sort of transition time might be helpful in some way to helping them have a better entrance into kindergarten.
So Kelly, I will be happy to report, and we could ask Dr. Quisenberry when we go back to the whole group, but we do have what's called Jumpstart Kindergarten. So it's a short time frame. I could not speak to exactly how many weeks it is, but we do offer what's called Jumpstart Kindergarten that does a little bit of what you were just talking about. So it might be something, Jessica, when you guys come back together that maybe you want to ask her about, but love that piece of it. And we're right there as well. So I know a lot of times my brain's on that high school side, but I know I've heard her talk about Jumpstart Kindergarten.
Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. That's very helpful to know. I also saw something that I find really interesting is the connection between ESOL resources in the classroom and that training inclusion with level 1 readers who are entering high school. I'm kind of laughing because I actually teach a reading class at the high school where we have pulled out some of the juniors and seniors that are those L1 learners. And so I am their reading teacher for that group. And there's definitely a huge need for all the classroom teachers there. And I like that connection because in some ways, these guys are almost like our pre-K students that are coming from another country with new cultures. Some of them come from places where they, carry water on their heads. Other of them come where they had a private tutor to help them with English prior to arriving, but they're coming from very different places. And I like that connection to that kind of, what do we want anyone coming in, whether they're actually pre-K age or just coming from a new environment. Now, Candace, how long did we want to leave for people to fill out the second part, that Google form?
I'm sorry, I muted myself. I can actually go ahead and drop it in the chat now and pull it up as well, because it's a singular question. If there's any other conversation, I apologize. I stopped sharing. Middle school was trying to get into that form and it was requiring a sign in. So I was making sure that our settings were all set. So it would actually be perfect timing, Jessica, if we dropped it in there to make sure everybody in the group is able to get in.
Perfect.
All right, let me grab that. Okay, I just put it in there and I'll share my screen again as well. Yeah, I see responses coming in. So when you guys get into the form, you are going to see here, because again, we're really looking for the feedback based upon that parent lens from this group, but we would like you to select the level in which you have children in. So if you have multiple children in the district, go ahead and select both of those levels or all of those levels. That way we're looking to see, does it differentiate based upon if I'm an elementary parent versus a high school, or if I have one at each level. So
all right, thanks. So if everybody wants to take a couple of minutes, we're supposed to go back to the main group in about 6 or 7 minutes. So people want to take a couple minutes to think through their answers and go ahead and fill out that Google form. I'll leave this open in case anybody comes up with a question about the form or wants to add another comment.
Candace, while filling out the form, I did it, but I'm gonna throw one out there for you. I did the one that I hear the most about and have for years now, which is my kid can do calculus, but no one ever taught him how to balance a checkbook. They don't understand a checkbook or writing checks and how that works. They don't understand credit cards and credit card interest or what those things mean, even though the kid's in calculus, right? They do algebra and geometry and all this stuff. and they're not getting the basic financial literacy. They don't understand mortgages and car loans and that type of basic financial literacy. So I put that in there, but I have another one for you that I think is even perhaps almost more important. Because if they can do all those other fancy maths, they can learn how to balance a checkbook. People need to learn how to disagree in an intellectual conversation without resorting to ad hominem attacks and screaming at people. We need to somehow bring back civil discourse in our country and the ability to have differing views and opinions and talk about them without it denigrating into a screaming match and I hate yous and you're a terrible person because your opinion differs from mine. I think that's greatly lacking in our system, and I think that's something perhaps our schools could help us with.
I appreciate that feedback. And as a parent, I couldn't agree more. So it is one of the things I talk to my own children about often. Their own opinions are varying and differed. And sometimes I have to let them know, bring it back down. You are still in the house and we can have conversations around this. So I completely agree with you. And that really could come in our collaboration in the teamwork and those discussions and debates. So I appreciate that feedback. I do hope you put that inside the form for us as well. So we've captured that. Thank you.
I'm
And
laughing.
it sounds a little bit like some of the discussions we've had around soft skills, right? And I know today a number of different terms may be used, but that's part of what that is. Even just going back to graduations last weekend, even the ability to shake hands, look a person in the eye, someone says to you on stage, congratulations, and you get absolutely positively no response. So those little things, they do matter, and we have to teach them because somewhere we've lost the ability to do those little things.
I agree. I want to give Jessica some stuff to talk about in her breakout. If everybody just fills out the form, she's going to say, well, everybody filled out the form and I have no idea what the issues were.
Well, yeah, well, it's funny because I actually wrote down some of the same things you did as financial literacy, working through problems, being able to make and follow through in a plan, because I see sometimes my kids have great aspirations, but can't break down the steps to get there. So, but yeah, and anybody have other ideas that they would like to have mentioned when we discuss that form?
You have a hand up, Ms. Merchant.
I was just going to build off of the financial literacy to, I mean, when I was in high school, we had home economics. So but like financial literacy, like budgeting for meals, like college students are poor. How many different meals can we teach you to make with ramen or mac and cheese or your 99-cent box of spaghetti from the dollar store? Things like that, which I know some parents have the ability to do at home, but it's still a good skill to have.
Thank you, Jamie. It's interesting you said that as well, because while we know financial literacy will come into play from the state as a required course, not all of those benchmarks are coming out exactly how we thought they would be. As educators, we're still looking at them. So what you just said is interesting, because I might be able to teach you about credit and budgeting, but understanding how much groceries actually cost is very different as well. If I may think I have this money in my account for food, but it's not going to go nearly as far. So it's an interesting perspective around it as well. Thank you.
And then
I only know because our high schooler, he graduated a week ago and he's moved out already. And now I'm like sitting here already with a tote of just snacks. Like, I know you're going to need it. So I'm just going to start packing this stuff up for you. But then he also tried to pop some popcorn without taking the bag off of the pack. I'm like, just some things just can't be taught. But we have to start somewhere.
And on that wonderful note, we need to go back to the main group, I believe. I think the time was 7:25 that we were supposed to head back. So you guys want to go ahead and go back to that first Zoom link. I'll see you there shortly.
All right, it looks like most of us are back. I see our participant number doesn't seem to be ticking up. So go ahead and get started with our breakout group reports. I don't think I've done high school first in a while. So Jessica, why don't you take it away?
Sure, thank you, Scott. So we discussed the first question, what skills, about the things that we'd like to see and the community impact for students coming into kindergarten. And so we talked about some of the great programs that we like to see already and that we'd hope it's possible to continue to expand, like the VPK programs, and how sometimes, even though things like the VPK and the pre-K and young fives are out there, they're not always accessible to parents because they may not be enough days of the week, or there's still financial considerations, and how kind of working with some of the social service nets, low-income medical care, churches, libraries. We talked a lot about libraries and how teaching parents about the importance of that text-rich environment at a young age, as well as how to work with parents on developmental and social emotional skills beyond just the school skills, how important that was, and how important it was to reach out to all the different community partners and have them help educate the parents. We also mentioned the kindergarten preschool week, which Candace said that there's already a jumpstart kindergarten program, but wasn't sure exactly how many weeks that was, but that was available as a way to help these new incoming kindergartners kind of know what to expect, given all the high academic demands that start almost immediately once they start. And then we also talked about the need for teaching parents to interact with schools. We actually touched on some of our ESOL populations, and would, if possible, like to know the actual percentage that our ESOL population has grown. I know I've seen it at the high school. I believe Candace thought it was around a 44% increase, but it wasn't sure of the exact number, but talked about how teaching parents how to interact with the schools is important in that, and also kind of the connection between some of these students that are actually technically entering high school, but are in much the same position as these students that are going into kindergarten in terms of what they know of U.S. schools, and how the teachers in the high schools need some help knowing how to help those level 1 learners of English that start in their high school kind of knowing nothing. Let's see, I don't think. And then we also talked about the importance too of just involving the community and different parents talking about careers and kind of bringing all those in so that kids, when they start school, kind of have some idea even maybe of what they want to do at some point, and the importance of making those connections within the community. When we looked at the second question, although most people filled out the form, we did mention 3 main themes that people saw that they would like to see in their future graduate, which included financial literacy and budgeting, and what that would look like beyond just what the new incoming benchmarks are going to be. Then also the people skills that so often are lacking sometimes between COVID and electronics and everything else, like working out problems without yelling, and how to work with other people who have differing views than you. And then which kind of goes along with the teamwork environment that was mentioned by the community. And then also just creating and carrying out plans and being able to function just with some real world skills like reading the directions on a bag of popcorn came up and making sure that you take off the plastic. So just some of those types of things were the things that we would like to see in our future graduates, some of those real life applicable skills.
Great. And that'll take us to middle school, going in reverse, I guess, grade order. Do we have somebody from our middle school group? Who
Yeah,
would like, okay, there we go.
I'll go ahead for the middle school. With our Jamboard asking a question about what we want to see in elementary or kindergarten, especially with parent involvement and community involvement. A lot of us got into libraries, especially having students be able to have access to libraries, or encouraging parents to take their children to libraries to help them with their reading before they enter in, or to interact with librarians and the library system, so that they can just have a good experience with that. And I'm trying to look for my notes and see what else we talked about. If anyone else wants in the middle school group wants to chime in, oh, actually, let's see. We also talked about reading in libraries, providing parents classes which can equip parents with the knowledge and skills that they need to know, to have best practices, to prepare their children for the classroom, how to interact with them, how to have students be better students when they reach the classroom, and try to lessen any type of problems that may or may not happen. Another one was business night bingo. May have trivia nights to get the community involved and get community involved with the students. And then doing more outreach with students, or community outreach, and maybe have an older family who is set up to be able to come in and help a younger family so they can navigate the educational system. And then also investing in a summer program. And that's what I have, Chair Hertz.
Well, thank you very much. And that will take us to our elementary group.
If we could get our Jamboard up, that'd be great. We veered a little bit off of topic on community involvement on our program and spent a considerable amount of time of talking about the program itself. Namely how kids can be, like what sort of qualifications parents need to be looking for when determining whether or not they want to go with the early 5 program, or if they want to continue on with kindergarten. How to handle if they are assessed ready to move forward. We had a lot of concerns about it only being available in limited schools still, namely because myself and several other parents actually did have kids that qualify for the program. And so we discussed concerns about siblings and how the program may not be allowed at our schools and having to split up siblings. And how some of the data surrounding the, there may be parents like the ones that were in our group who aren't even raising their hands for the program because we don't want to have the sibling split. And therefore we may not have full data on how many extra kids could be benefiting from this program in order to get expanded, because there are so many concerns with that. So it really boiled down to a lot about increased communication about what Young 5 is, how to qualify for it, how it all works. We did discuss in lieu of that, or as part of that, adding partnerships with private VBKs to create awareness. because a lot of these kids are coming from private VPKs and may not be aware of it. And building curriculum that's standardized between them. Maybe once a month literacy and math programs at various schools for those pre-K kids so that they can get prepared. Providing incentives for parents as like grants for before and after school care so that their kids can get a little bit extra help if it's needed. And really the expanding of the Young Five program was to get more in schools having it available to them so that we can capture all the kids who need it. Finding ways to engage multilingual families also came up for us. I know high school talked about ESOL and we did too. Creating a program that allows families to have an assessment of their child. The commenter said July, but even perhaps earlier than that, so that changes can be made during the enrollment process or early on in the enrollment process. And basically meaning that the kids can be assessed to see if they are going to be good qualifiers for the Young Five program. Maybe they've got some extra skills they need to work on, or if they may be ready to go ahead and join traditional kindergarten. Increasing parental knowledge of the requirements of kindergarten so that they can make those determinations. Kinder boot camp during summer to get students acclimated to the school setting. We also talked about Jumpstart, just like the other grades did. It doesn't seem to be standardized. It's an opt-in program that some schools can choose to use and some schools can't. Some are doing it half days, some are doing it full days, some are doing it for multiple days. Our school's not. Our school's doing a 2-hour, 1-day program. So it's very varied and getting a little bit more standardized on that or having that available to those kids may help with them getting acclimated, especially if they're younger and may struggle with the changes. Partnerships with daycare again, and learning opportunities for parents to understand how they can support their kindergarten at home. And I'm good.
All right. Did you guys get into the skills you want in your graduate?
We did very quickly share the link, but we did not have time to discuss it because there was a lot of conversation about Young Five.
Fair enough. Well, that will take us to public comment on any non-agenda items. Do we have any members of the public who wish to give DAC comment on non-agenda items? And I'll just share with our presenters. I know our comments become part of our minutes, but one of our members just added another comment on the early literacy initiative. So one of you might want to pick that up for your staff notes. Seeing no public comment, that takes us to good of the order. Does anyone have anything they would like to say at this time for good of the order?
Chair Hertz, I do. It's been 10 months. It's been 10 months of learning and growing for me. And I want to publicly say thank you for being gracious with me in my introduction to not even facilitating, but just my introduction to DAC, right? It was a completely foreign concept. And, I had a few missteps here or there, but there was always an outstretched hand to help me get up and keep moving. And that says a lot about you, sir, in terms of your character, but more importantly, what DAC represents. And so we will miss you. No one will attempt to fill your shoes. Or follow your path. I think that's impossible to do. At best, whoever follows you will create his or her own new path, but there's so many amazing lessons that we've learned that I am confident that we will continue to move in the right direction. So again, thank you for welcoming me to this group, and Godspeed in any and all of your future endeavors.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sure hopefully you'll continue on representing, I guess, the district or staff to the to the DAC next year. I think you've done a wonderful job stepping up and continuing to move things forward as Dr. Spiro did when he took over. I think that's great, always onwards and upwards. And of course, the goal is for everyone to work together. I'll tell anyone who is, thinking of getting more involved in it. It's a great experience. I gave you this speech. It doesn't seem very long ago because we had such a short year here with the hurricane and everything else. Being part of the executive committee is only one extra meeting a month, and those meetings are short. Often they're only a half hour, never more than an hour. And it's a great way to participate. And I'll share the last thing is the thing that's stunned me is I think I've been of all the committee chairs and the people that speak to the board in a constructive way. I think I've been the most critical. I've never been afraid to come forward and talk about all the things that we had back to whether it was transportation when we had very heated meetings or school lunches or the issues with Google Classroom where that's one of my proudest moments that we ended up with a 2-page best practices guide, but the meeting was full of here's all the things that my kid can't find and one teacher does it right and all these other teachers do it wrong. And there was a lot of constructive criticism that we gave that led to best practices. So, I think as long as DAC continues to remember that that's the goal, is to be constructive and to improve things, don't be afraid to speak up. All these staff people who I thought would have loved to have seen me go and tried to encourage someone else to be the chairperson, all kept asking me year after year to do this again. I will tell you, I didn't have a burning desire to be your chairperson. I was happy to be a member, and I kept trying to say, shouldn't someone else do it? And they kept asking me to do it again, and I agreed each year. So I would tell you that they're great people to work with, and I think again, as I said at the beginning, it's all about our kids and trying to make this better. So I encourage someone else to take the opportunity here and step up to the plate and enjoy. Certainly our staff people and current people I'm on the executive board with have my contact information. I'm not like leaving the area or anything. If gosh forbid somebody had a question or needed to reach out to me, I'd be happy to chat with anyone and share my thoughts. But with that said, that's all I have. Does anyone else have anything for the good of the order?
I just want to echo Dr. Cuba McCoy's statements. It's been 3 years that I've been working with you, Mr. Hertz, and it's been incredible. And also thank you to Board Member Patrica. You've done a great job as our board liaison, and I've learned a lot in the last 3 years, and hopefully we can carry this on in the future.
That's great. And I think Mr. Walbert is going to throw his hat in the ring for chairperson. At least he promised me he would after being vice chair this year. So hopefully you've got at least one prime candidate there to be the chairperson. Does anybody else have anything for good of the order? Not seeing anyone, I would happily entertain a motion to adjourn. I'll remind everybody this was our last meeting of the year. The next upcoming DAC meeting for the full DAC will be September 27th of next year, and that would be preceded by, we would ask for all of the executive current members that come back that are the members of the executive DAC. Your first meeting will be August 28th of 2023. I guess for what it's worth, I'll see if I'm available at that time. I don't know how exactly that works if I'm not a SAC representative, but if I can lend some support around that time, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to attend that executive meeting to try to hand the reins over to a new chair as elected. I'm not quite certain on how that works for that first meeting before we have new elections, but to the degree my input's desired and I can help you out, feel free to reach out to me for the August 28th meeting. With that said, can we get a motion to adjourn?
I will motion to adjourn and also say thank you for all of your service, Scott. You've been a fantastic leader.
Christine, that was Chelsea Robinson with our motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Walbert, give us our second. Anyone opposed to adjourning? Seeing none, everybody have a great rest of this school year and enjoy your summer, and hope everybody comes back next year. Take care.